Hey guys, I'm just wanting to come at you tonight and share a few things with you. I have been looking and looking all over the internet for any kind of sites or sermons or teachings that talk about men or women that are currently in a separation. They're in a marriage, but they're separated from their spouse right now. Everywhere I look, it's either people that are talking about separations but have not been through one, or it's people that are divorced and are now talking about the background of their separation. But I have not found anybody that's actually going through a separation and any type of coaching that they can give any of us that are in a separation. I'm currently in a separation. I've been separated from my wife now for approximately about 8 months. A little bit of background. My wife and I had been married for about 20 years, going on about 20 years. We've known each other for 34 years. We were high school sweethearts back in the 80s. Um, to be perfectly honest, my wife and I did our marriage wrong. we we moved in together when we shouldn't have. We were not following the Lord at the time. We did a lot of things wrong initially with our relationship, which led to our marriage. We had both been married before, so we had the dynamic of a blended family with stepchildren, along with a child that my wife and I had together while we were married. So we just had a lot of dynamics that contributed to a very stressful very stressful marriage. That being said, my wife and I eventually did get married. We both started going to church. We both became followers of Christ. Um, we did our best to navigate a blended family the best we could. However, about 8 months ago, my wife chose to leave our marriage. There were a number of different circumstances that led up to that. I started doing more ministry work. That frustrated my wife. The more ministry work I did, I chose to kind of start pulling away from a lot of my normal activities. I stopped drinking. My wife kept on drinking, which kind of caused some division with us. We stopped doing as many things together. They say that couples that play together tend to stay together, but couples that don't play together do not stay together. So, anyways, there's a lot of different things that led up to our separation. That being said, the night my wife did leave, the Lord told me to allow her to leave, to not argue, to not fight. She was very frustrated with our marriage at the time. We were not communicating very well. I had asked her numerous times that we go through some type of counseling. She did not want to. I admonish any couples out there that are going through difficulties to go through some Christian counseling. Get some Christian counseling. It will not hurt. Oftentimes it's good to get some unbiased opinions, not opinions from friends, not opinions from parents, from children, but to actually get some unbiased opinions on your marriage. The reason why that's important, if you go to a friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, they are generally going to side with you and not look at the objective point of view of your marriage and what you can do differently in your marriage. I just want to give a couple really brief tips on how to be in a separated marriage, but navigate it hopefully with a Christ-like manner. One thing to remember, you guys, when you do get married, it is a covenant. It's a triune covenant between you, your spouse, and God. Your commitment is not to your spouse, it's to God. So many marriages today divorce because as soon as things get difficult, or this one spouse or the other spouse decides that the grass is greener somewhere else, they tend to leave to look for that greener grass. The Lord has asked us to stay in marriage, to stay in covenant. simply because that's how we grow. That's how we refine ourselves. That's how we become stronger followers of Christ, by having faith in covenant. So remember, marriage is a covenant, especially if you're a Christian. Remember that. The second thing is stay in prayer. Pray daily, pray hourly, pray by the minute, pray all day long. When you are separated, you'll tend to possibly get depressed or sad or feel lonely. You can feel that void very easily through prayer. The Lord Jesus Christ promises us in Isaiah 41:10 that He will be our stronghold. He will be our provider. He will sustain us. Remember that truth, and it is true. He will sustain you. Also remember to pray for your spouse. Look at yourself. Don't just look at the issues and faults in your spouse. Look at yourself too. And then pray. Pray for yourself to grow, but also pray for your spouse to grow also. The reason why you are separated is because one or both of you have looked towards the world and the enticings of the world instead of staying in covenant and praying to the Lord for guidance and for strength. The Lord promises us we can get through anything if we're faithful to Him. Pray also for your marriage. Pray for unity. Pray for reconciliation. Don't start looking around for another person to date or another person to fill that void. That's wrong. Stay in covenant with your spouse, even though you're separated, which does suck. I'm not saying it doesn't suck. Excuse my language. But the more you press into Jesus, the more you stay in prayer, the more peace you're going to feel in your heart. And again, remember, pray for your spouse that their heart will get reconnected with the Lord, and also for your heart to get connected to the Lord. Do your best to avoid temptations. Stay off the internet. Stay off the television. Stop looking around for things to fill that void in your heart while your spouse is gone. Jesus Christ promises us to be our joy, to be our peace, and He also promises us that we will be content during difficult times if we pursue Him and not this world. He says, the world hated me, and thus the world will also hate you. And one thing the world does, it wants to destroy marriages. So avoid temptations. Don't look at the opposite sex. Don't look at things on the internet that you shouldn't look at. Stay faithful to your spouse. Even though you're not together, you're still together in covenant. Okay? Remember that. So be faithful. Overcome the attacks of the enemy. Satan wants to seek, kill, and destroy. That's his goal, is to seek, kill, and destroy all marriages. If he can get the spouses to separate and eventually divorce, he's not only destroying a marriage, he's also destroying generations of family togetherness, generations of strength as a family. He's destroying the faith in your children, faith in your grandchildren of what a marriage should be like. How awesome would it be to reconcile your marriage, reconcile the love with your spouse, and to be an example for your children and your grandchildren of what it can look like if you press into Jesus, if you're faithful to one another. This is just a few quick little tips on staying together, on being separated, but staying faithful. The Lord never said it would be easy to follow Him, but He did say it would be worth it. So I pray for everybody out there that's going through a separation, that you'll remain faithful to your spouse. Avoid the attacks of the enemy. Pray for your spouse. Pray for yourself to be strong. But most of all, pray for reconciliation with your marriage. Let's turn the tide on divorce rates in this country. They're way too high, you guys. Let's see if we can lower those divorce rates by loving our spouse. Even though you might be separated, still loving your spouse during your separation. I pray for you. I pray for me that we can all get through this. Have a good night.